Hey everybody, it's Coach Krystle here, or Best Day Krystle, however you know me, friend Krystle, family Krystle. Just want to check in because it's the end of 2024 and I know everyone is getting ready for the new year and thinking about intention. And I wanted to check in because I have some intentions. Right now, my intention is to make a blanket for my godmother, and I've had the yarn here for all year. I actually meant to make her this blanket last year and never prioritized it like I should have. And so it's kind of the capstone thing I want to do in 2024 because I intended to do it all 2024 and just never did. And that's just what life does, right? We intend and we don't, but not this year, not anymore. And 2024, outside of my intention to do this blanket that I never did, has been full of good intentions, and I made a lot of progress on the act of acting on intention. And I want to share with you all how I did it. So some of you know that I've developed the March model. It has evolved in the last 9 months or so, and where it really came from was this idea that you really need to have some sort of, I don't know, syllabus, rubric, framework, whatever you want to call it, to life. And what made me really hungry for this framework was feeling kind of, I don't know, just like, damn, I could be doing more. But why am I not doing more? I have every intention to do more, but I just haven't yet. So with this blanket, I need to have 35 stitches. I don't know where I am. It's gonna be a pretty long blanket. So when I separated from my job back in March, I decided at that time, all right, are you gonna go back to coaching? Are you gonna go back to making cakes? Are you going to join your mom full time with Best Ed? And I kind of did all of the above, except sans the cakes. Y'all know, well, people who know me know I don't bake cakes no more unless it's for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. I am making a cake tomorrow, or a very special friend's birthday or occasion. So a couple exceptions there, but for the most part, I ain't making no cakes. So that's kind of the difference between knowing how to do something and being intentional about and wanting to do something. So there's that. But anywho, so I left my job in March and decided, you know what, the employee-employee relationship just really wasn't for me. But what am I going to do now with this freedom? And that's where March came from. It came from the idea that we really need to start making some decisions. Okay, cool. So I could decide to make cakes. I could decide to coach. I could decide to braid hair. I know how to do that. I could decide to go back and find another job. But it didn't make sense. And so it started to kind of bother me that I have all these options in front of me, but all it's really doing for me is giving me anxiety and feeling like I have a lack of focus. Like I generally do lack focus as I'm working at a job. I get distracted because I'm bored or not feeling challenged or it's not interesting. So I start to do something else, whether it's scrolling or looking at something else, doing something for someone else, but not really being wise or intentional with my time. So that led me to my decisions need to be aligned. I need to make aligned decisions, but then it's like aligned to what? So got me thinking, and I'm like, you know what? In my learning and development background, working for corporations and nonprofits, I learned that as a leader, we have always had to align our goals with the company's vision for the future. So you get that from the executives. They tell you this is our vision, this is our mission, these are our corporate goals. Hey Kevin. These are our corporate goals. I said that because I just saw an orb, and that's a funny story. I'll have to share with y'all later, but my brother Kevin is right behind me. Um, I digress. So, um, okay, so I get distracted easily. Oh, corporate executives. So they tell you your goals, um, and you align your goals to their goal, their main overarching goal. Um, and it made me think about my life and, well, my goals, what are they aligned to? Or the actions that I take every day, what am I aligning those to? I don't have a main objective. I don't have a main goal in my life. Okay, so that makes sense. I need to have a vision for myself. And then I thought a little deeper about that because, again, in my role as a learning and organizational development specialist for all these years and manager, and working closely with the chief people officer, in my latest position, I learned a lot about organizational strategy and how companies make significant progress forward. And it is because they align their goals with not only the corporate objectives and goals, not only the vision and mission, but also the company's values, what's important to them. And I've learned all these years how important it is for a company to have values because that is what is going to attract the right people, attract the right staff, employees, leaders, executives, and customers. It's the values. And what's important to the company needs to align with what's important to its customer. So when I think about my life, it's like, dang, do I have values? What's important to me? That's how I align the decisions I make. It needs to be aligned to my values and what's important to me. So then thought a little bit more about that, and it's like, okay, if I have values, I have values, I have a vision. I'm making aligned decisions. What's next? Now it's like, do I really know myself? Do I really know who Krystle is as I'm thinking through these action steps, these decisions that I want to make? Am I aligning them to what's important to me as an individual? And how do I even know what's important to me if I haven't done the deep work to understand who I am as a person? So that's where awareness of self came from. Becoming aware of oneself means you are having a keen awareness of how you respond emotionally, what you think is logical or irrational or illogical, what you think is appropriate or inappropriate, how you respond to someone being appropriate or inappropriate, how emotionally intelligent are you, and what do I need to do to close the gap between where I am realistically and where I want to be. Because we present and we talk about ourselves one way, that's potentially what we would like for ourselves to be, but we're all walking contradictions. And how we show up sometimes is a response to an emotion versus the way that we see ourselves. And that's where I think the keen awareness of self comes from. So that's where A came from. So I just started to stack the letters. So I'm like, okay, I got the vision, I got the values, that's two V's, I got the M, I got the A, making aligned decisions, having awareness for self. And I just kept going from there. And the next kind of idea I got was reflection. And reflection is something that usually we do, we're asked to do. We're asked to be in a moment of reflection. But when do we actually do it for ourselves? And when I say we're asked to, it's usually like a significant other or something. Like, did you reflect on that situation, that question I asked you about, that argument we had? And then when you reflect, you come back to the table and might be able to say, yeah, I thought about that some more, and the last time I didn't like how I responded to it, so I'm going to do this next time. But when do we actually take the time to reflect on our own selves and our own situations just because the prompt is, I want to do better, versus someone else asking us to do better for them, or think through a situation that you share with someone else? What about just ourselves? So that's where reflection came from. And further than that, it became something that evolved into using other resources around me, such as my friends, my family, my colleagues, constituents, people who are around me professionally and personally that I can use to give me constructive feedback and allow me to have more productive reflection. And then I moved on to C. And C is where I'm like, I had this light bulb because I'm like, oh, what about goals? Because now I've got my vision, my values. So I know what's important to me. I know where I'm going. I want to make aligned decisions. But what are those decisions actually adding up to? What do they mean? And the decision making should really be all about your goals. And it came to me like, oh, SMART goals, duh, right? So most people are familiar with SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relative, time bound, or time sensitive. That makes it a SMART goal. And a SMART goal means that you actually have something like sort of a plan, or a goal that's easier to achieve because you have the specifications of what it is you want to do. So I got to thinking, like, well, shouldn't I know my vision and my values? And shouldn't I be capable of making decisions that are aligned to my vision and value to establish goals where I'm making decisions that align with those goals as well? Um, and I thought about it like, yeah, but I don't think that we historically, traditionally, whatever, usually come up with the M, the A, the R, as I've just described, before we come up with SMART goals. And I think that that's a gap. I think that that's something that we've missed, is making sure that as individuals and groups on a level that's a little bit more personal than organizationally, we are missing the mark there. We don't normally take the time to reflect or really have a keen awareness of ourselves before we start designing goals to go after. We just start designing goals. So I knew that that was a gap, and I got excited about that, but I couldn't call it SMART goals. And I decided maybe it's just committing to a course of action, and that course of action is your SMART goals. So that's where C came from. And then I had to finish it off because I'm like, okay, Mark, and I have two V's, the vision, the values. That didn't really go. And I continued to think through, what else do you need to make it a holistic um, kind of framework, and something that can be harmonious, something that can create harmony between the personal and the professional life. And that became having honest conversation with yourself and highlighting wins and lessons learned, or failures, whatever you want to call them. And so that's where those two H's came from. It's the highlighting your wins, because that's something that I think we also fail to do for ourselves often, is celebrating what went right. Sometimes we think the win has to be achieving the goal, but really it can be as small as making a decision that was aligned with my vision or my value, or discovering that I was making a decision that wasn't aligned. That's a win too, because now you're learning more about yourself, and you can further reflect and think, okay, well, why did I automatically, kind of on autopilot, go that route, when I gave myself the time to reflect, I found that actually I should be going this way. So that's where highlighting the wins and failures, or lessons learned, comes from, because you really want to continue to know and learn who you are as a person, because you do change, and evolve, day after day, month after month, year after year. So then it became March with 1H, and I continue to talk about it, use it, implement it in my daily life, and I just saw more and more progress. But I also saw an opportunity for me to start becoming more and more honest with myself. Now I'm like, well, damn, I told myself and others this one thing, but if I were honest, I actually could have got a little bit further because maybe I would have, had a little bit more resource. Um, Maybe I would have, just been able to get further because without being honest with myself, I'm stuck in this false reality. And that's where the last H, the bonus H is what I call it, comes from. So it's still March. It's like March. And that's why it's just important to me. I think it's a value of mine, honestly, being trustworthy, being honest. And where I was able to link it was with confidence, especially in women who want to be leaders and who want to be leaders in male dominated spaces, which is a lot of spaces are male dominated. But when we become more honest with ourselves, we become more confident within ourselves. And then we can show up more, show up for ourselves more and show up confidently versus showing up in a way that's not truly honoring who we are. And that's where the authenticity and the honesty comes in for me, because we tend to lie to ourselves, and that shows up as a lack of confidence because when we tell other people what we commit to and it doesn't come off as confident or like it's really going to happen, it's because we first lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves with our diets, our exercise plans, what we swear we're going to do, next week for ourselves, for our businesses, for our professionalism, for our enrichment. And when we don't do it, we subconsciously tell ourselves, you're not, you can't do this. And so you have to first be honest with yourself. And it looks like, not being, not being under or over ambitious. And when you are under ambitious, you're, killing your dreams. But when you're over ambitious, for instance, if I told myself that I was going to work out 5 days, 7 days a week, that's probably a little bit too ambitious because I know myself and I know I like sleep too much. I know I'm not there yet, so I need to take baby steps. So that looks like maybe let me be honest with myself, and I'm going to commit to 3 days a week because that's what I know I'm ready for. So that's what that looks like, and I just wanted to share that with y'all. At the end of the year, I will be coming out with more and more March material, first being the e-learning that I just put out because of my learning and organizational development background. It's something that I already am really good at and passionate about, which is learning and development. So my first product is a self-development tool for people and groups in personal and professional spaces to use to educate themselves on the framework so that they can be better about marching, standing up for themselves. Usually when we're marching for a significant cause that has nothing to do, with us as individuals. It could be related to something we're going through or have experienced or a loved one has. For instance, a disease or, homelessness or, I don't know, Alzheimer's, something that is significant to us, but it's not us. So when it comes to March, M.A.R, C.H.H, that is only about you and your situation. Or if you are a leader of a team, that is about you and the team that you have to manage and the work that you and your team have to do. You can march for that as well. So make aligned decisions, have awareness of your team members, your peers, your leaders, the organization, and the work. Reflect, do some reflection exercises and call on your team members to do so. You can commit to a course of action for the project, highlight wins along the way, especially as a leader, and have honest conversations with yourself and your team. So it goes both ways, whether it's a team, individual, personal, professional, young, old. So that's March. And I just wanted to give you all that gift on this happy New Year's Eve. So happy New Year's, everyone. And I will see you in 2025.